Good morning to everyone in the meeting. The chairperson of this committee, Mr. Mashiko, is not well, and therefore he won't be chairing this meeting today. The committee must elect an acting chairperson for this meeting. Ms. Tsege?
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Rosipo. How are you?
Yes, Mr. Mashiko is off sick today, so the committee must elect an acting chairperson.
Oh, okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
Can I make a proposal that we elect or request Honorable Tseke to deal with Grace, that she chair this meeting?
I second Soposimo here.
The same with me. I also second it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tsege. You are acting as a chairperson in this meeting.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much, Nosipo, and good morning, honorable members of parliament, guests present here today. Let me check if the DM or the minister is connected. We don't have any minister or deputy. Oh, Deputy Minister Mahlobo is connected. Good morning, DM.
I'm also connected, Chair.
Oh, DM Makazi and DM Mahlobo is connected, and good morning, everyone. Can I take this opportunity and welcome you all to this portfolio committee meeting? We only have one agenda for today's session. I'll request members to adopt this agenda.
I propose that we adopt the agenda as is.
Thank you, Honorable Making Peterson. Any seconder?
Second, Chair.
Oh, thank you very much. Honorable members, we are on the agenda is flighted on the screen. Open and welcome has been done. And Honorable Mashiko is not well, and thank you for nominating me as the acting chair of today's session. We are now on item 2, observe moment of silence and for meditation and prayers. Honorable members, can we take a moment of silence or observe a moment of silence for meditation or prayers in remembrance of the people we have lost, our brothers and sisters we have lost, and also pray for Honorable Mashiko for a speedy recovery. He was hospitalized last week and just been released yesterday. We hope that he will get well soon. Can we observe a moment of silence and prayers? Amen. Thank you very much. Nosipo, do you have apologies?
Besides Mr. Mashiko, there was an apology for Minister Mr. Mchunu that he will attend the meeting, but he will leave earlier because he must chair another meeting at 11.
Okay.
That
is it the only apologies?
Yes, it's only that.
Okay, it means that all the members are connected here in this meeting. Members, we do have 2 apologies for Honorable Mashiko and the Honorable Minister. I don't see the Minister connected, but nevertheless, the 2 DMs are here. Can we know the apologies, members? Ma'am, your network is not good.
Noted the apology.
Thank you, Honorable Sludge. Get a spot if it is better. Honorable Sludge, your network is not good. Can you get a spot that is better than that one so that we can be able to hear you loud and clear? Any seconder for Mamslai? Are you still here, members? Can you hear me?
I'll second.
Thank you, Honorable Leon. Honorable members, we are now on item 4, briefing by the Department on Sanitation on the 2022 Green Drop Report and Progress Report of work undertaken to date by the Anti-Pollution Task Team. I hope we're going to start with the Green Drop Report. We all remember that it was launched some few weeks ago or some few months ago by the Honorable Minister of the Department of Water and Sanitation. So I think that today it's our first interaction with the departments just to get a briefing on that assessment that was done with our infrastructure, water infrastructure, or our water infrastructure in our country. DM Magazi, I hope you are the one leading the delegation, or DM Mahlobo, you'll give me an indication.
Thank you, Chairperson. I will be introducing the delegation, but let me start off by saying, as the Department of Water and Sanitation, we wish the Chairperson, Mr. Mashiho, speedy recovery. And let me greet all members on the platform and also Honorable Deputy Minister Mahlobo, all the officials from the Department of Water and Sanitation and officials from Parliament, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me outright indicate, Chairperson, that the Green and the Blue Drop program have been reinstated basically to try and encourage Water Users Association and our municipalities so that they can be able to live up to the ideal of the Operation Vulindlela, where we can be able to talk to social issues and economic issues in such a way that we protect our environment, but we also make sure that we manage the environment in a very proper way. These programs, of course, aim to assist the municipalities to strive to improve their management of wastewater as part of the incentive-based regulation approach. Chairperson, the water services authorities are responsible, like I indicated, municipalities and water services authority for potable water and also for the management of sanitation services to all customers in their respective areas of jurisdiction. And we believe that these services include a number of issues and the responsibilities that goes with the services, management of domestic wastewater works, and how we dispose our sewage within the sewage system. And we need to indicate that in April of 2022, the department issued and published the long-awaited Green Drop certification report. And one thing that people
recording
should be
in progress
to indicate is that when the certificate, the published certification was put to the fore, it was like the department has not been doing that, but it's certain sectors of the community, particularly the media, who actually is trying to project that this is what is happening. But we need to indicate that we have regressed in making sure that the Green Drop is adhered, because you'll remember that the last report that was taken out was in 2013, and therefore now we are coming back to make sure that we live up to the expectation, particularly focusing on our economic and social issues so that we don't find ourselves wanting. I need to indicate that the municipal wastewater systems that were identified were very critical, and since 2021 until we finalized the report, the system said, like I said, has regressed. And I need to also indicate that the anti-pollution task team report has several issues that they have to indicate, because this anti-pollution task team has been instituted based on Section 24 of the Constitution, wherein we are saying that we need to protect the environment and make sure that the health and the well-being of the people are looked after. But also we must make sure that we prevent pollution and ecological degradation. These are the things which are there in the Constitution that as various departments or as various institutions who are taking care of the ecology and making sure that we prevent pollution are the things that we must always remember, because they come from the Constitution and we must comply with the Constitution. Our National Water Act of 1998 also ensures that the country's water resources are protected and managed and used, developed and conserved and controlled in a sustainable manner to benefit all the people and to make sure that the environment is well looked after. And I would want to hasten to say there are several things that contribute towards pollution. Your wastewater or sewage, dumping, oil pollution, acid rain, industrial waste are but a few that one can be able to talk to and say, these are some of the things that gives us a challenge towards ecological management and reduction of pollution. And once we have this type of issues, we must always remember that the ecology and the ecosystem gets damaged. There will be disease, of course, that are brought about and people become vulnerable. You can think of your cholera, you can think of your typhoid and other diseases that are waterborne, especially if our sewage systems are not properly well looked after. And therefore, it becomes very, very important that we deal with this water. We're working also with the Department of Fishery, Forestry and Environment to make sure that we can be able to have mileage in everything that we are doing in prevention of pollution, but also conducting nationwide status of what we're doing in wastewater treatment, but also making sure that the quality of water is up to date. Chairperson, I am going to request the Director General and the team to make a presentation, but of critical importance. We have indicated that we will start with the green drop and then we will go into the blue drop later on, but also to make sure that as we have termed ourselves with the publishing of the green drop, that it will be an annual thing. We're looking forward that annually we'll keep on updating the portfolio committee and updating the people of the Republic of South Africa. But also we have an anti-pollution task team that regularly gives us the report and as it has been established, and we're also looking forward that that report of the anti-pollution task team will also serve at parliamentary level. Let me, through you, Chairperson, give Dr. Sean Phillips, our Director General, to make a presentation to the portfolio committee. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, dear Magazi. Dr. Phillips, the Director
Thank you
General.
very much. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, honourable members. Today we're going to present to you the result of the Green Drop report. The Green Drop report assesses the wastewater treatment systems around the country. It focuses on wastewater. We also do a Blue Drop report, which focuses on the clean water provision systems around the country. And that focuses on the provision of water through reticulation networks, pump stations, and water treatment works. And then we also do a No Drop report, which focuses on the issue of non-revenue water, particularly in municipalities, and whether how much water is being lost through leakages, and whether revenue is being collected as it should be on the sale of water by municipalities. All of these reports we do as DWS as part of our role, which is required by legislation to regulate the water services sector. In terms of the Constitution and the water services, with 3 key water services provided by me. Second, to monitor whether or not it is on meeting those minimum norms and standards. All 3 of those constitutional and legal obligations that we have. The reason for that is that through the
My apologies, Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Leon, I thought it's from my side.
No,
Breaking.
no, yeah, maybe you should just put off his video.
Okay, DG, Dr. Phillips.
adhering to those standards.
Dr. Phillips.
Yeah.
Dr.
Hello,
Phillips.
Chairperson.
Sorry to interfere. You keep on breaking. We are losing you at some point. Can you switch off your video? Maybe it can improve your connectivity.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I've switched. These 3 reports enable us to meet our 3 requirements of setting minimum norms and standards, monitoring performance against minimum norm standards, and supporting. When we do assessments of municipalities with these 3 regulatory instruments, we assess against standards, so it sets standards. The assessment process constitutes monitoring of whether they're meeting the standards. And then when we produce reports, the reports don't just indicate whether or not the municipalities are meeting the standards. They also include an analysis of the reasons why the municipalities are not meeting the standards where they're not, and what they need to do about them. So these regulatory assessment tools assist municipalities to improve, because they provide the municipalities with guidance as to what they need to do to address the problems. So in that sense, they are also a support mechanism to municipalities. With those introductory words, Chairperson, I'd like to ask Leonardo to make a report. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, DG. Good morning, honourable members, Minister, Deputy Ministers, and all other colleagues. I will just briefly switch on my camera, and if there's any indication in terms of network, please do indicate, and then we will continue. My presentation this morning will just go quickly in terms of the standards, the results and the findings of the Green Drop report, and then also in terms of the Blue Drop progress report and the program going forward, which will be covered as far as the Green Drop is concerned. just in terms of the green drop standards, we will go into that. On the picture itself is just something that we can see in terms of some of the good work that is also happening in the country as far as wastewater works are concerned. Not all wastewater works are in disrepair. Some of them are managed according to the standards of excellence. And some pictures will be seen during this presentation as well. However, in terms of the green drop program itself, in terms of how it was established, I just will go briefly into the purpose, and then one will give a little bit more in terms of the detail. And that is, it was developed to identify and develop the core competencies required for the sector that, if strengthened, will gradually and sustainably improve the level of wastewater management in South Africa. So it took a minimum requirements, world-class standards, and best practice across the world in terms of the wastewater business, and it was encapsulated into a center-based regulation program, which was set there to raise the bar for wastewater management in our country and to certify a wastewater system, which includes both the collection of sewage, the pump station, and the treatment thereof in a wastewater treatment works. And if it achieves 90% or more, it will receive the green drop status, and then we will be certified accordingly. The program is therefore not based upon results of a limited number of samples, random samples taken at unspecific times, but evaluates the entire management of wastewater and sanitation services over an audited period of time over 1 year. So that is what it is doing, because the danger is in terms of taking one sample and make a judgment according to one random sample would be that you can either take the sample in a very bad time or in a very good time, and you make a judgment on that brief moment, and that would be quite not reflective in terms of the overall management of wastewater, and that is what we are seeking through the Green Drop program. So it is also designed to complete the efforts of other government and stakeholder programs, which then provide essential information that will inform and confirm commitment in planning by sectoral partners with a shared objective of, first, achieving functional wastewater systems, restoring the functionality of these wastewater systems in the short term, and then also to ensure excellence in wastewater management in the longer term. So those should be the two fundamental aspects that need to be looked at as well. Now, in terms of incentive-based regulation, which commenced in 2008, shortly after we were in a period where we had a lot of diarrheal outbreaks across the country, typhoid outbreaks in Delmas, in Jokabi, also in Limpopo area. And it was just seen at that point in time that we had to do something to look a little bit deeper in terms of the drinking water quality management in South Africa. And we have seen that in terms of the key causative factor was wastewater. And we deemed, just as the World Health Organization is doing it, that wastewater is your first barrier of a multi-barrier system to ensure safe drinking water. And that is the reason why we then merged the launch of both the Green Drop and the Blue Drop programs in 2008. It's certainly not a weaker form of regulation, but it's an alternative form of regulation. And it's based on the legislative requirements to ensure that the minister is being availed with information for the purpose of performance monitoring. And that is the key legislation being used to source information. And once that information is attained, that is subjected to an audit and a verification in terms of a site visitation, and then to measure it against high standards, which include international best practice, national standards, and some innovation towards seeking improvement in performance, compliance, and efficiency in terms of the way wastewater is being managed. And then if that elusive 90% is achieved, that we give recognition to excellence, as we've done in the past with some great level of success. So the other forms of regulation is not abandoned. Conventional regulations still continue in terms of where authorization is granted, in terms of a standard that is being set, and the compliance monitoring and enforcement continues, as well as the benchmarking and price capping, which is now also being explored within the economic regulation fraternity, all with the one objective to improve water services and the resources through regulation. So the simplistic rule would be that Blue Drop, as the DG have spoken, will cover the drinking water quality aspect, which is the clean water aspect, with the objective of protecting our citizens, and that they will then have access to safe drinking water. And then the Green Drop, which is looking after the wastewater component of the business, is there to protect the environment. And that should be the two elements. Honorable Chair, I will spend just 5 minutes on this slide and then pick up pace after that. These are the areas in terms of the standards and requirements that we look at when we do a Green Drop audit. It would not be arbitrary components of the business that we look at, because we have done thorough assessment at the time when we launched this program to see what would be the key building blocks that is required to ensure excellent and continued risk management of wastewater if it should be in place. If it's not in place, obviously, we have found that it's a major risk to continued wastewater management. So the first element that we have taken into account would be capacity management. Now, capacity management in terms of the 50% weighting, 15% weighting that we have given, look at those who are responsible for the management or the operations rather of a wastewater treatment works. Legislation is in place in terms of regulation section, regulation 2834, that requires that for certain classes of wastewater treatment works that you need certain levels of skills in terms of the operations. And that is what we then look at and to see whether it complies and whether there's adequate skills for each shift of operation. So it doesn't mean that if we have 3 shifts of operation, because keep in mind that the wastewater treatment works have to be in an operable state for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So for each shift, there must be then a properly skilled process controller in place. There must be the availability of maintenance capacity, if not internally in the municipality or the water service institution, that it should be contracted in and the contract should be in place, that there should be technical engineering, scientific skills available in management to give guidance to the process controllers, because keeping in mind that the wastewater treatment works will be the only engineering facility or infrastructure that is being designed that will be alive. If a wastewater treatment work is not operated completely as it's supposed to be, it will die and it will stink. And when there's a stench, it means that engineering and scientific skill is required to assist the process controller to restore the functionality and the living capability of a wastewater treatment works to treat the sewage that is actually coming into that wastewater treatment work. So the regulatory objective of capacity management will be to ensure that adequate wastewater operations and maintenance capacity is in place to ensure that the wastewater treatment works are maintained in an operable state. The second criteria would be environmental management. And this is where we in South Africa have taken quite the leap to be pioneers in the space of risk abatement planning, because the World Health Organization designed subsequent to a similar fatal water quality failure that happened in the town of Walkerton in Canada, similar to what has happened in Delmas. They've developed a concept called the water safety planning for drinking water. We realized that some similar risk abatement is required in wastewater, and we've developed it by the department and with the assistance of the Water and some input from the Water Research Commission. We have developed this document and this framework ourselves, and it is being implemented in South Africa with some good effect. So there's the second element that in this element we take it that all the risks that could be identified, or all the hazards that could be identified in this whole business of wastewater, will then be included into a map for mitigation of these risks, and make sure that everything is covered, so that if something could happen, that there is a response that is adequate. Effluent quality monitoring is an element that we look at to ensure that the right monitoring program is in place, so that you manage, you monitor at a continuous basis at the right time for the right effluent determinants to ensure that it's measured at the right laboratory, so that it's not the situation where the laboratory is not credible. So a laboratory should be then accredited or participate in a proficiency testing scheme towards accreditation before it can be regarded as credible. So the credibility of the monitoring is then at that point crowned off at the laboratory that is acceptable. One other element would be sludge management, because we can look at the effluent, we can look at the liquid that's going out, but if we don't look at the sludge, and honorable members, when you have visited Rooiwal in Tshwane, you have seen for yourself that if the sludge is not being managed as it's supposed to be, it creates a great environmental impact, which is detrimental downstream. The financial management would be then the third element that would be taken into consideration, because most of the time, if we don't know how much it costs to treat something that we are responsible for, we are not completely in control of the management thereof. And this is where we are trying to get into the space where we make sure that there's a proper operational cost determination per cubic meter, including the energy that is required to ensure that it's adequate in terms of the budget that is being available. Because if there's not enough money to do what we're supposed to do, we won't be able to do it. And that is the reason why the budget, as well as in expenditure and the adequacy thereof, is being looked at. In terms of chemicals, because sometimes when we get to wastewater treatment works, we find out that there's not enough chlorine in place. And when we ask, but why there's not chlorine, then no, it's still being procured. Now, for a duration of procurement, the wastewater is then partially treated or inadequately treated for that matter, and poses a detrimental impact onto into the environment in which it's being discharged. So that is the reason why the supply chain management of suppliers and service providers that perform key roles as far as the service is concerned for wastewater management is then also being assessed and audited. The technical management, in terms of 20% of its weighting, is given here, because if we don't have adequate infrastructure to do the collection, and that is where we do our sewer mains inspections is required to ensure that there's a sewer main inspection and to identify where there's leakages or spillages of sewage, and that there's a reaction plan to it. We also do process audit. We require process audits to be done of our wastewater treatment works by the technical people that is identified in K performance area number 1, to ensure that asset management is also being maintained, that maintenance plan, refurbishment plans is being developed based on the audits and condition assessments that would be done. There is also the element of local regulation, because if there would be industrial or commercial users of the system, of the same sewer system, if, like for instance, if your restaurants are discharging effluent that contains high level of fat, that's got a capability of killing the plant. If there's an industrial area that will discharge oil or any other chemical that can kill the bacteria, that need to be managed as well, because abattoirs and other commercial entities could have an impact on your wastewater treatment works. So too, the domestic intro of stormwater into the gullies can cause damage to the wastewater treatment works as well. Lastly, but most important, would then be the quality of compliance with an authorization. If there's adequate monitoring that has happened in terms of the monitoring program that has been assessed under KPA number 2, and then also the effluent quality compliance with the water use authorization in terms of the National Water Act, and then also the sludge classification, and then the handling thereof subsequent to that. So these would be the elements in terms of what's being looked at. Honorable Chair, that we have then committed in the 1st of June when we started with the launch of this program, not the 1st of June, I think it was the 6th of June last year, that we said that we will have a report ready by the end of March. The department did achieve in that, because we have put in the field 24 audits panels. We have audited 144 water service authorities and the water service institutions. We've also included 115 systems additional to the 850 municipal systems that's under the ownership of Public Works and other private companies and SOEs, which was another 30 systems that were then assessed as part of this audit. In terms of the results that we have in place, and just to show that that is a solution, and it is in South Africa in the municipality of Ilembe. However, the picture in terms of the country, and this slide that as you see it in front of you gives a map in terms of the entire water service authority. So all systems, wastewater systems that would fall under a water service authority would then be weighted in terms of size and then be allocated a score in terms of the global score for the municipality itself. So if a score is less than 31%, it actually then means that that municipality's wastewater management in the totality would be in a critical state. We find ourselves that 65 of our municipalities would be found in that state, as you can see, marked across the country. Then there's 39 municipalities, or water service authorities rather, that would be in the category of very poor wastewater management. And this would mean that there should be some targeted intervention by the Water Service Authority to ensure sustainable improvement. 25 find themselves in the category between 50 and 80%, which is fairly okay wastewater management performance, but with ample room for improvement. And then 13 has found themselves in the category of between 80 and 90%, which is good wastewater management, but there are some gaps that have still been identified towards excellence, which they should all yearn to. 2 municipalities, would be Witzenberg as well as Brito local municipality, has found themselves in the category of excellent waste management, where the majority of their wastewater treatment works have been found to be managed in the excellent class. The department has taken the decision to actually get turnaround plans from the municipalities in the 65 municipalities in the critical state to ensure that there's some level of reaction and rectification in terms of the outcome of the Green Drop report. More of that will be given later. In terms of those who have been finding themselves in the class of excellence, the city of Ekurhuleni, with the assistance of the water service provider, Authorizations, have managed to, for 6 out of the 17 systems that they are responsible for, we have found to be suitable to be given the Green Drop certification as per the scores achieved. However, it doesn't mean that all are still good there. There are 3 systems at least that were issued Section 19 notices, as well as the directive in Benoro Park for sewer network upgrades that is to happen there. And we have received reports that that is happening now, which means that there's some progress being in that space as well. In the Lesedi local municipality, we appointed Authorizations for one of the 3 systems, and this was also as water service provider. This has also led to the point where that one system achieved Green Drop status, but there's a significant gap between the 1 and the 2 remaining systems, which scored only 25%, which means that there is significant improvement also required in the other 2 systems. In Ilembe, in KZN, 2 systems under the management, also the assistance with the water service provider of Caesar Water, have achieved Green Drop status. But again, there, Section 19 notices were also given for Glendale and Stanger. And there's also a significant difference in the performance between the Green Drop systems as well as the remaining 10 systems that would be in that space. In terms of Umgungundlovu, in the district municipality of Umgungundlovu in Mgeni, in KZN, also with assistance of the water service provider Mgeni Water, 1 of the 6 received 91%, but there's also much hope and much encouragement because the remainder of the 6 systems all score above 80%, which is actually quite good as far as this district municipality is concerned. The local municipality of Bito in the Western Cape scored both for the two systems that they're responsible for, both scored within the category of certified for green drop. City of Cape Town scored 4 out of their 26 systems achieved a green drop. Drakenstein 1 out of the 5. They are scoring quite well in terms of the remainder of the systems, but microbiological compliance were not consistently doing as it's supposed to be in terms of compliance level. So if we have taken only one sample, perhaps Drakenstein would have been good all over, but consistency is also quite key. Mossel Bay scored 1 out of 7, and if they had perhaps done a little bit more statistical management, they could have had 2, but there's also 2 of the 7 systems that are struggling in itself as well. Saldanha Bay scored 1 out of 7, and then Witzenberg scored 3 out of 4, which was also one of the best municipalities in terms of the country's performance in wastewater. And then also the Sasol was the only of the private systems assessed and the SOEs assessed that achieved green drop in the Free State for the Sasolburg system. So in terms of the findings that we achieved, we have noted, and it was also expected, that there would have been a decline, and there was a significant decline. In 2009, when the first green drop report was released, there was, from that to 2011, there was a decline, and that decline was due to the fact that we have sharpened up on our key performance indicators and the standard, and that we had greater clarity in terms of what is being achieved when we started working also with the World Health Organization's regulators network across the world. And we have sharpened up our standards to be more in line with what the international standards should have been. And that is the reason why there was a decline from 2009 to 2011. But we've seen a huge improvement to 2013, which meant that the green drop certification program actually worked. Unfortunately, there was a decline from 51% to 36% in terms of those systems that scored in the category where we would really like them to be. And the category where we don't want them to be actually increased quite significantly from 2013 to 2021. 3% of the wastewater treatment works had no operational information at all. And that was a worrisome factor, which means that those wastewater treatment works are not treatment works, but perhaps just there. They're just existing. So in terms of the 334 wastewater systems rated to be in a critical state, 39% of them have been in that space. 22 systems rather, achieved green drop certification, which was in the class of excellence. But just to also prove that the department tried to put out a standard that is credible, there were 30 systems that scored between 88% and 90%, which means that a lot of effort has gone in by those water service institutions or into systems that have happened there. But if the compliance couldn't be consistent, or there were certain penalties that were applied because of certain measurements that could not be audited as per the audit standard, they could not be making the grade to actually get the 90% as required. And that would be 30 of the systems that would have been there. If we had taken that step, the 22 systems that were classified as green drop would have been 52, but we have not done that at this point in time because that would not help any of us. So the largest schemes still presenting higher levels of performance during the latest audits, that is quite evident. And so going to the distribution of our wastewater treatment works across the country, we will note that the micro schemes are still in the micro and the small schemes are still in the majority, the numerical majority in terms of the number of schemes that would be there. And the macro and the large schemes will be still in the minority, but go to the total design capacity. These two equates for about roughly 300 megaliters per day. Of all these 281 plus 156 wastewater systems, but the 74 plus 58 schemes are responsible for 1,100 megaliters per day for large schemes and 4,400 megaliters per day for macro schemes. And that means that there is going to be a greater focus by the department on these schemes to be continued to be operated in the space where they should be, because the impact is just so much higher. It doesn't mean that we won't look at the smaller schemes. We'll continue doing that, but this is just doing in form in terms of the size. Significantly so would be that there has been a much lower inflow, though, in terms of the design capacity of the systems across the board, that the inflow into the wastewater treatment works are much lower. And this might be just a real indicator of how many spillages happens across the country. And that is the reason why there is a significant work currently being done, which I will explain in terms of the water service improvement plan, to ensure that there's greater impact and greater attention given to the sewer spillages also in the country. The design capacity, the use of the design capacity is then also much lower in terms of what would be there. Worrisome, though, would be, honorable members, the point that I've stated earlier in terms of the unknown information that is not there. So generally, the inflows that were measured would be lower than the design capacities. However, due to poor maintenance philosophies, available capacities are lower than the design. That would be the one element in terms of the available capacity at the works itself. So it doesn't mean that if a plant has been designed for 10 megaliters per day, that 10 megaliters per day is available to be treated. So due to some unit processes not being in an operable state or functional state, it might be 8 megaliters per day that's available to treat, or even 5. And that is where that rectification or restoration of functionality is being to be prioritized. It is concerning that the inflow is not measured at 341 wastewater treatment works over the audit period. And that means that you can't adapt your treatment philosophies according to the strength of the inflow, because the lower the inflow, the stronger the influent. And the higher the inflow, the weaker the influent. And therefore, there's required certain adaptations required in the processing at the wastewater treatment works. And that is why the measurement of inflow is so important. There was also evidence, then credible evidence, or that we can say that at least 82 of our wastewater treatment works were operating beyond its design capacity. Other key findings should be, honorable members, that even though we are investing through our grant programs for the upgrading of wastewater infrastructure, it did not necessarily then materialize in meeting the authorization requirements. And that was quite worrisome. And that means that there's still issues in terms of operations of these wastewater treatment works up to the standard as it's supposed to be. Then there's also during upgrades of the construction that we have found that wastewater treatment works is taken completely out of operation. And this caused that raw sewage to be then discharged for the duration of construction. And this would be something that the department will be following up in terms, especially in times when we find that there are certain construction upgrades that would be happening. Vandalism or even the stealing or looting of infrastructure components have caused plants and pump stations to be out of operation or out of service for extended periods of time. We have developed a very rough order of measurement, and I want to stress that it's a very rough order of measurement, just to give us some level of indication what is required to restore functionality. Most of the times our attention would be to upgrade and to build new, but because it is possible for wastewater treatment works to live much longer, it is the restoration to functionality that should be prioritized to ensure that we are protecting the environment. And a figure of 8.1 billion has been identified in terms of what is required to actually restore functionality. In terms of mechanicals, which will be the pumps, electricals, which will be your motors, and then also your civils, which will be the structure itself. Why the civils would cost you more to construct, and yet they are much lower, because vandals or those who steal infrastructure or components thereof goes for the metal components or the mechanicals thereof, and not necessarily causing damage to the structure itself, and that is why that would be lower. In terms of the audit period, municipalities budgeted in the order globally in the order of 7.2 billion for operations and maintenance nationally. We recorded about 6.9 billion as far as the expenditure is concerned versus this budget, which is a little bit lower. But if you take a national wastewater asset base that has been recorded at about 72 billion, then statistically and according to the standards of asset management, that compares quite well. But it distorts actually the picture when you look at the lower breakdown in terms of municipalities, because at a provincial level, the operational expenditure versus budget has ranged from 65% in terms of operational expenditure versus the budget, 203% in certain areas, which means that it's not a linear equation that could be applied in terms of this expenditure versus budget. It's also been through a complex calculation that we have done with available information that we found when we use the median of the statistics that was available for operational cost that was applied for wastewater in terms of what it costs per cubic meter to treat wastewater, we came to a figure of about 8.43 cents per cubic meter that needed to be used. But in certain instances, the smaller the system and the higher the technology, it even worked out to a point of even more than 100 rand per cubic meter. And this is where it need to be a greater attention should be given to the type of systems that is being designed for smaller municipalities or smaller systems, that we don't go for the higher end technology, because that has been caused, the unit cost is much higher, and it is going to be cause for some failure in the future. It has found that also that in terms of the energy, that some municipalities have not, or the water service institutions have not really done the energy management plans, or that there's no energy efficiency management that's in place in the municipality, not taking it into account in terms of the costing and the management of the wastewater. And this also causes then the lack of efficiency, and the potential savings in terms of wastewater operational cost is then not being taken into account. There has been a definite evident correlation between the availability of duly qualified technical and scientific staff and also the overall wastewater management, as can be seen that in terms of those systems that have scored, few have scored lower or more than 50% as far as the green drop score. If you move across, you will also see that the available qualified staff for the number of systems that would be in this place, that it is lower. And that is the reason why there would also be then lower performance. So, but in total, in the country, those who take responsibility, the number of engineers that take responsibility for wastewater would be 133, with the technologists at 143, technicians at 204, which brings the total technical staff to 480, scientists to 153, which means that we have some skills, even though we are not adequately skilled. There are some skills that have also in this place that gives us hope that we can turn this around also. In terms of the actions that we are taking going forward, would be in those schemes as have been earlier stated that are scored less than 31%. We have already issued notices, and we have required them to provide us with turnaround plans. Some of the municipalities have already started responding. The end of this week will be the 60 days that will be expired, and then we will actually have to look into the space. The responses received thus far are not as encouraging, which will mean that we will have to look into the space of the water service improvement plan to really look at sustainable improvement. The capital expenditure not always translating into improved performance. Our grant management in terms of the WISIC as well as the RB grant management, that we, and as well with the provincial correlation that or collaboration that we have with our sister departments in terms of the MIG, that we will have to come to a point where we apply more rigorous monitoring in terms of during implementation, so that we also take our cognizance of the fact that not only the output at the end, but also during implementation and construction, that certain points are, or the steps are taken to see that the effluent that is still being discharged, that it complies. Technical skills are lacking in certain areas. We have started with programs in terms of the WISIP to look at the technical training and the skills development as part of a national program. And this we have looked at sector partners such as SAICI, the Water Institute of Southern Africa, and others to look to actually improve the standard of process controllers as well as supervisors that take responsibility of the operations, and look at also the professionalization of the management of those who are actually looking after the whole process. The operational and monitoring compliance that would be lacking, that we have also looked at this in this instance also of the design and implementation of the training of process controller programs, hands-on management, and then also look at laboratories. Those laboratories that are participating in proficiency schemes towards accreditation, but also to look at the payment of laboratories to ensure that the results are released in time to allow for adequate and effective management of the schemes. The lack of flow monitoring, sewage not reaching the treatment plant, we have already stated that in terms of the WISIP, that we will use this report to inform the upgrades and the going forward in terms of capital investment, and also to get flow balances in place together with the people who are there. So as the DG have spoken in his introduction, he made mention of the fact in terms of that those who are adequately skilled, that have gone through the training to actually be green drop auditors, that they've also taken those colleagues that have been subjected to the audit through the various requirements as to say what is required to do a flow balance and to do troubleshooting to ensure that all flow reach a wastewater treatment works, and that certain plans should be in place by themselves. And if that is not being effected, that we will then as a department have to take some other intervention steps as well. Sludge handling, as being also stated, the Water Research Commission have developed certain standard operating procedures for handling the sludge, and the municipalities and water service institutions responsible for wastewater are now being also given training on this, and also we share as a department this information with them to assist those who take responsibility for this. So WISA is also doing some symposiums in this regard, which can be also attended, and certain information being shared from that as well. The high level of dysfunctionality of infrastructure and process control defects, we are addressing the technical competence, and to also through the WISIP, which is the Water Service Improvement Plan, to hold the management professional responsible for this to ensure that they prioritize maintenance and repairs plans are being put in place according to the KPI number 3, which speaks on the finances, that we are also then ensuring that that is being done. The financial data that is lacking, that I've just addressed in terms of the sharing of information through that KPI on financial management, that municipalities are fully conversant in terms of the areas that need to be looked at now at this point in time as well. In terms of just moving on to the Blue Drop certification program, we have done this year only a Blue Drop progress assessment that has been passed. The attention is now being given to do a full Blue Drop audit, but just to get a benchmark in terms of base information, how is our drinking water quality faring, and with available information that we could then do a Blue Drop risk rating of each water supply system across the country. What would be worrisome would be when there's no information available, and that would be putting a water supply system in a higher category of risk immediately, and that is what we have then done. And we have taken the 4 critical key areas for risk, which is the treatment capacity and how that is faring, the water quality, the skills, and the risk management in terms of water safety planning as previously stated. And that is what's giving us then this Blue Drop risk rating, according to which we have then done a national overview in terms of a national report in terms of that risk rating, which has given us that 48% of our water supply systems are in the low risk category, which means that things are still happening as it's supposed to be as far as the quality is concerned in terms of the skills and the capacity. We have been concerned about in the 23 that is found in the critical risk area, where there's just not been 23% rather, where there's just not been enough information, because without information, there is no confidence at the level of regulation within the department that there is adequate drinking water quality management happening. But when we go into our detailed audits of the Blue Drop, which will be covering the following standards, and honorable members, you will note that these standards, these 5 key performance areas here, reflects quite well in terms of what I explained to you earlier with a green drop. But you will notice here under the risk management part that we are using the water safety planning, which is now being globally used as being the guidelines of the World Health Organization. So we are using that here. And another element that is quite significantly changed would then be the area of drinking water quality, which is a little bit more rigorous than the effluent quality, because of the fact that the risk-defined compliance, which emanate directly from your wastewater planning, where it's identified which risk could be in which catchment and which resource that the water treatment work should be working for, is then identified in this area, and then also give a water treatment efficiency index, which will also then mean that the drinking water quality compliance is highest weighted as far as the criteria is concerned. So the way forward, honorable members, would be, in terms of my last slide then, would be that the regulator will use this Blue Drop and Green Drop information as performance baseline for the municipal wastewater and water fraternity to inform the appropriate regulatory intervention with the objective to facilitate improvement. This will include the development of the Water Service Improvement Program, which is underway, towards informing sustainable intervention with the objective of ensuring a turnaround in the municipal water services sector. The key word would there be sustainable, and then national government will ensure that grant funding allocated to the water sector will be allocated with the objective to restore functionality of the existing wastewater infrastructure first, according to this report as well. Then the regulator will inform, or rather will improve the implementation of Section 19, and this will mean the interventions that will be triggered based on the failures that is being reported upon, so that remedial action be taken at the cost of the non-complying entity or municipality, and that is still being, the different modalities are still being finalized, and the department will take steps to improve its capacity to be more effective. And this is also a category that's in the Water Service Improvement Plan, which is not outward looking only, but also inward looking as far as the system is concerned. And then, yeah, that would be my last slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. The next presentation will be made by Annette Muir, who's the Chief Director in our regulation branch. Chairperson, you'll probably agree that we perhaps need to pick up the pace a little bit. So Annette, if I can ask you to not necessarily go through the detail of every slide, but to take us through the key points in the presentation. Thank you, Annette.
Good morning, honourable members, Minister and Deputy Ministers. Can I just confirm, are you seeing a full screen or is it still in draft mode?
No, you can see a full screen, Annette.
Thank you. It's not what I'm doing, but okay, thanks. Thanks, DG. I will try and summarize or not spend, yeah. All right. Okay. Apologies, my screen is now doing something funny here. All right. I'm going to do a brief introduction and then touch on some of the legislative mandate of the Anti-Pollution Task Team, as well as some of the key actions that the task team is busy with, as well as priority matters and the way forward. The Anti-Pollution Task Team was established in November 2019 and has 22 members from the department, and importantly also members from the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, as they also have a mandate in terms of waste management as well as general environmental management. We are also part of the Environmental Inspectorate, or the Scorpions, and that is also where the compliance and enforcement collaboration is occurring with DFFE. I took over as coordinator of the Anti-Pollution Task Team after Mr. Marius Kiert retired. The purpose is to provide of the task team is to provide high-level guidance to ensure protection of water resources and to identify remedies to mitigate pollution impacts in all water users water use sectors. Importantly to note, when there is pollution incidents, this is not a rapid response task team that goes out and does the investigations and the cleanups of those. We have our standard enforcement team that is trained and responds to these incidents. The purpose of this task team is to look at catchment level pollution, how to do strategic interventions to address those. And it's to integrate and more seamlessly work between ourselves and our regional offices, as well as our catchment management agencies and our environmental departments. All right, so I'm going to skip that. The legislative mandate, I think the committee is fairly well versed with the department's mandate. More importantly is that our Constitution ensures that we have to have, that we all have a right to an environment that is not harmful to our health. And this task team is, together with Environmental Affairs, as I said, geared towards ensuring that that environment is realized. Our National Water Act is very strong in terms of pollution prevention, as well as dealing with mitigation around pollution. But there are obviously, in the operational aspects, there are certain things that can be done to strengthen the legislative provisions. All right. So annually, this anti-pollution task team draws up an action plan in line with the integrated water quality management strategy as well. Currently, there are 8 key tasks. Each task has got a task leader that meets with their subcomponents, and then the larger team gets together just to touch base and make sure that we are on track. The action plan has been updated to include the Water and Sanitation Summit outcomes that was held on the 18th and 19th of February. And I think the most important action that arose from the summit was that we were instructed to provide action plans that will see the improvement of our water resource quality by 60% within the next 36 months. We were given until the end of June to have these action plans in place, and I'll be giving some information on that as we progress. I'm going to skip this as it is, well, okay. These are the 8 tasks. I'm not going to go into detail for every single one of them. Task 1 is the oversight and strategic direction. Just in terms of the color combinations, green indicates where tasks have been completed. Yellow indicates where we are busy with the task and on track. Red indicates overdue, and gray is long-term. So our action plan, though it is annual, also includes some of the longer-term strategic actions. I think importantly here in terms of task 1 is that we wanted to ensure that we have water resource management forums in our regions. There are currently catchment management platforms where water users are interacting with the department to raise certain water quality issues as well as other operational aspects. But there isn't an internal forum where the department gets together with its national office to see how do we task these to address the water quality issues in the catchments. So we are busy establishing these, and they will be our driving forces for the action plans that we are developing per region. These action plans will incorporate the water services improvement plan that was mentioned by my DDG. That will then take care of the municipal space, which is one of our big polluters, as can be seen from the maps that was shared. And then the remaining component would then be for our mining sectors and our industrial sectors, as well as our agricultural sectors. There are different strategies and plans as by nature that we've been developing. And then there needed to be a coordination and pull through to see that we don't duplicate our efforts. Our resources are limited, and we need to start working smarter together to achieve our objectives. So these action plans are then pulling together the water services improvement plan, the acid mine drainage strategies, the mining strategies, the catchment management strategies, and all of those other activities, but into one single plan. One or two activities that came from the summit was to strengthen the intergovernmental relations with other departments to improve water quality, and to identify potential projects that we could perhaps levy or engage with environmental affairs regarding their plastic bag and tire levies, that we can possibly access some funding there. And then also to engage with public works, that we can potentially look at an extended public works program for the department, either solely or that we partner with the Working for Water program or the Working for Fire, or those aspects, because sometimes they're not fully engaged, and that we can then have a timeshare type of scenario with them, where we can have our community members also involved in our maintenance of our wastewater treatment works, or even in terms of assisting in combating theft and vandalism. In terms of task 2, very important, even as DDG Monis was saying, if you can't monitor, you can't, if you can't measure, you can't manage. So one of the biggest tasks the anti-pollution task team has is the coordination of our water quality monitoring programs. Very important for us is to have laboratory contracts in place. So we have sampling programs. This is not for the municipalities. This is for the department itself and its water resource areas, that we have places to take samples, and that we have credible laboratories in place to analyze those samples. This assists us in determining where our hotspots are and what determinants are problematic for us. And this will enable us to then develop focused action plans. In terms of task 3, again, it's in terms of information management. Our information is sitting in a couple of systems. Some of them are using older technologies, and some of them are using latest technologies, like, for instance, the Integrated Regulatory Information System that our Blue Drop and Green Drop is utilizing. So the department, through its CIO, has started with the national digitalization process, where we want to ensure that our monitoring systems are aligned and that the information is adequately shared, and that we are efficient in our use of our resources. I think I'm then going to move to the next slide. Is the task 4, pricing and incentive systems that support integrated water quality management. I think this is very important for us to note. We are empowered under the National Water Act to take action against polluters where they are and where we can't find them. So if there's a chemical that has been spilt, but the culprit cannot be found, then there's an onus on us to clean that up while we're looking for the person responsible for it. These things unfortunately take huge resources depending on the nature of a chemical being spilt, and we are not able to budget for these type of things. So we want to look at a funding model for pollution incidents and how we source funding to be able to proactively clean up these incidents and there's not a knock-on effect on the environment. Next one is the waste discharge charge system. I think some of the members would know that this has been coming for some time now. We have piloted the waste discharge charge system in 4 of our water management areas with mock billing going out. We are part of the raw water pricing consultations currently underway. The waste discharge charge system will be implemented in these 4 water management areas in 23-24, giving effect to the polluter pays principle. So for the first time, water users that have got a waste discharge element in it will be billed in the water billing. Administrative penalties. Currently, the Water Act does not have any administrative penalties associated with it. You can either do administrative processes or criminal prosecution, which then could lead to a penalty being administered. We are working with, again, Environmental Affairs and the Water Research Commission to develop an appropriate administrative penalty system that will probably be in place by 23-24, also through the legislative amendment of the National Environmental Management Act, where the Department's Water Act is then a specific act that can benefit from that. We need to beef up our policy position on the implementation of security by applicant to specifically address our mining and industry sectors where there is large risks posed if those applications or licenses get into financial difficulty. We also want to look at a dedicated bank account for cost recovery, where the department has one, for instance, criminal cases or civil cases, that money that then can be ring-fenced and it doesn't go back into the fiscus, and we can be reapplying it for compliance and enforcement. One of the items from the summit is that we need to look at partnerships with industry to improve water quality. One of the items was to engage with Business Unity South Africa regarding green hydrogen and acid mine drainage, as well as the brine economy that a couple of years ago was not economically feasible. And we are specifically looking at these around our AMD plants and to make these type of interventions self-sustaining, that we can not be reliant on the fiscus to clean up that water, but that we can actually make it self-sustainable, obviously then with the securities of applicant that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Identification of water quality problems and hotspots, task 5. This links again with the monitoring issues. Once we know where our water quality results are, we can identify those hotspots. Those have been done with the 2022 water quality data analysis, and we are busy with recovery plans in those catchments as per the summit deadline of June. Then task 6, key projects. First one is the approval of the integrated water quality management policy. This has been routed for approval by Cabinet. Then also the mine water policy has also been a couple of years in the making and has been finally approved in May 2022, this month or last month, by Cabinet. There's a couple of regulations that we are working on to strengthen our regulatory environment. One is the Unconventional Gas Regulations, or popularly known as fracking. These are out for public comment at the moment. We're also developing regulations for protecting strategic water source areas, our regulations for process controllers. We are busy with the norms and standards for water services and sanitation. Also the existing lawful use regulations. and the update of our mining regulations, Gen 704. I think they were also waiting for the mine water policy to be tabled, so that will now progress nicely. The department's also looking at updating the waste discharge standards. And then in the long term, we would like to look at borehole registration regulations and the water reclamation and reuse regulations. Then in terms of strengthening regulation, compliance and enforcement, we need to work on our intervention plans. These will all be incorporated in the catchment plans. It's your mine water, your landfills, your wastewater treatment works, your mining interventions, our action plans that we are now asked from the municipalities. The department is also busy with spillages and leakages detections and interventions in our various municipalities. These will all be part of the water services improvement plan as well. We're currently busy with our monitoring for our resource quality objectives. Those are gazetted. We then monitor compliance to those. This also assists in developing a profile of hotspots where the resource quality objectives are not being met. And again, our monitoring systems are crucial to be able to do that. Linked to this, obviously, is also improved water use authorizations and making sure that we have a handle on our verification of our existing lawful uses. Last task, task 8, is the well-capacitated water quality officials. We have got executive training for our EMI, for our regional heads, our CEOs of the 2 CMAs, as well as our DDG regulation, scheduled for Q2. This will enable them to be designated as EMI grade 1s. Normally, this is a 3-week course through Environmental Affairs. A 2-day shortened course is offered for the executives. This is notwithstanding the normal basic training that our officials undergo to be designated as blue scorpions. Currently, we're sitting at about 170 green scorpions. 107. Training of law enforcement agencies and municipal officials. We have a team of officials that engage with the SAPs commanders and provide them with training on the Water Act. These officials are not normally very interested in investigating criminal cases involving with water. So these colleagues assist with the training of those officials. We also want to strengthen our water quality officials in terms of chemical training, as well as sampling training that we have started a process now with Environmental Affairs as well to do that training for us. Just a summary of all the tasks, green being complete, yellow in progress, red overdue, and gray in future. We have our plates full in terms of these tasks, but luckily for now, we are on track. In terms of priority matters, we are focusing now on getting these catchment forums established and having these water quality improvement plans in place by end of the month so that we can start working towards that 60% improvement within the next 36 months. This is also coupled with the water services improvement plan as previously stated. This also fits in nicely, and it's like building a big puzzle, getting all these pieces together. Also with the SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals, to reduce discharge of unlawful wastewater by 50%. In terms of the way forward, we are meeting with our regional officials to guide them on the establishment of these forums and the development of these action plans. Once these action plans have been finalized, and they then get submitted to our accounting officer for approval, and our draft action plan and our first forum meeting will be held before the end of June 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Oh, are you done? Oh, that was quick. Thank you very much, DG, and the DMs connected. I saw the minister was connected at some point. I think, oh, she is disconnected. Honorable Mashiko, you are also welcomed. I see you are connected. And members, I think we are done with our 2 presentations. I'll see by the raise of the hand if you have any comment or question. But firstly, let me appreciate the work of the department, because the president in his State of Nation address, he said that government is working very hard to revive the blue and the green drop certification program, which was disbanded in 2014. And I think we want to appreciate the department for reintroducing this program. And notwithstanding also the pocket of excellence in KZN, Western Cape, and in Gauteng, I think the green drop results reflect the poor state of wastewater treatment system across the country. When you were presenting, you said 334 wastewater treatment systems are in a critical state. And I think the department must zoom in that space. And I think there is also an urgent need for operation and maintenance, and also refurbishment of this old water treatment, a wastewater treatment plant. Capacity build, give capacity building to address the lack of skills, and also the improved funding models to this plant. I think at some point, maybe we have to meet the National Treasury through the Appropriation Committee, just to check with them if we can reinforce the budget for maintenance and operation, because there's no way that we can leave the situation as is, honorable members. And I think at some point also the department must also display or give us a plan or provide a plan on how are they collaborating with the Department of COGTA in order to solve these waste water treatment plants and management challenges throughout the country. Members, I see the hand of Honorable Leon Basson. I know this you met her. Honorable Mushala Rebecca, Honorable Hendricks Kharif. Another hand, I think those are the hands that I see. Members, those are the 3 hands that I've noted. Honorable Leon, you'll start. Mushala, you'll be the second. Khanif, you'll be the third, or Honorable Mashiko, you'll be the last. Thank you very much. In that order.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, yes, I've got 3 questions. The first one is on the Wilge River. I just want to find out what is the progress on the pollution that occurred in the Wilge River, if I can get some information on that. Second question is, Chairperson, I'm very much concerned on the wastewater treatment works of Public Works. We've seen in this report that 102 of the 115 wastewater treatment plants, that's 90% of these plants, have a score of 12%. And I understand that Leonardo said that there is, they've been placed, they've been given documentation, or what do you call it? I can't get to the name now. But then thirdly, on Rooiwal, I want to know whether there's any progress on Rooiwal, whether there's any investigation or any negotiations with Tshwane of maybe handing over Rooiwal to a water board to run that plant. Is there anything positive that they could give us on Rooiwal? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Leon. Honorable Mushala. Rebecca Mhlala, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm struggling to unmute myself. Thanks so much,
But you're
Member Seke. Let me take this opportunity and wish Mr. Mashiko a speedy recovery, and we hope he'll come back strong.
It's 11 hours.
Chairperson, the manner in which the report is, it shows that South Africa is in a very in a state of disaster under the current government. The Green Drop report in terms of municipalities is extremely very bad. This is due to the fact that we are failing to maintain the wastewater treatment plants and the water treatment works in majority of the municipalities across the country. So I'm only having one question which I want to pose to the department together with the people that presented the report. The question is, over the years, what is the effective implementation of the recommendation of the Green Drop report on improvement in municipalities? Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Mhlala. Honorable, the third one. Oh, Hanif Hendricks. Yeah, Hanif Hendricks.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for this opportunity. Honorable Chair, we know that when one measures whether a state or a country is a failed state, you look at the quality of the drinking water. So we are very happy to get this detailed report, and I must thank the department for this report, because it gives us indication of the state of affairs. We heard the previous honorable member say that the state of affairs is not too good, and we don't want, we want to tick the box that we are not a failed country when it comes to water. Having said that, Honorable Chair, it is not right that we monitor the water in our taps, because people drink water not only out of taps, but they drink water out of rivers, out of streams. So we need to also have a monitoring system to find out that wherever people, especially in the rural villages, drink water that we test, we cannot discriminate against people living in the rural villages by not testing the water that they have to drink. I was a councillor for 7 years in the city of Cape Town, and I focused a lot on the water treatment plant at Zandvlei near Makassar. And the reason that I took an interest and even wrote a book, which you can find on Kindle free of charge, is because a PhD student at UCT who lives in Kailicha wrote in a thesis, which I got sight of, that the water treatment plant in Zandvlei, because of mismanagement and because they are making it so big, is actually causing a slow death of up to 1 million people living in Kailicha. So that's why we took an interest. And I don't want to go into the details, but we managed to get 3 awards from the Director of Environmental Enforcement against the municipality. We got an order from the Public Protector and a damning report with regard to how we manage our wastewater treatment plants from the Human Rights Council. That was in Masupumaleli. And the reports from the Director of Environmental Enforcement was of the Zandvlei treatment plant. So I am surprised that the department and the officials, that they don't seek advice from our universities in Cape Town. Maybe they do so in other provinces, but the University of the Western Cape is at the forefront of wastewater management. We have a Professor Leslie Patrick there, who's an emeritus professor. She's most probably one of the leading lights in the world on water treatment, and she got an award as a water legend by the Water Research Commission of South Africa in 2021. So what we did, Honorable Chair, there's also another Professor Leslie at the University of Cape Town, and also some professors at Stellenbosch and the CSIR. I managed to take them all to the office of the Mayor, Dan Plato, to explain that, number one, you must not have large water treatment plants. It's impossible to handle it. So there needs to be a policy decision that water treatment plants must be manageable. It mustn't be on a large scale like Zandvlei, where they're busy with a 5 billion rand project. And Professor Leslie Patrick said that sewage pollution, which we are very concerned about, is because municipalities and the Department of Public Works, they pump poorly treated sewage into waterways like rivers, and then it goes to the sea. So her research shows that sewage pollution is a concern in South Africa and will be worse than climate change. Now, I never thought there'd be anything worse than climate change. We saw the floods now in KZN. So I would like surely to suggest that the department start studying, downloading the research and the concerns. Because sewage pollution, in the case of the Zandvlei sewage plant, is pumped, poorly treated, it's pumped into waterways, and then it eventually lands in the sea, and then it kills the snook. This same professor got R1 million to do research on how the sewage from Zandvlei affects the snook. You know, the snook is a favorite fish in Cape Town. 1/3 of the snook was found to be diseased because of the sewage pollution. So sewage pollution is clearly an issue that we need to look at. And I am certainly also concerned about the standards to measure, whether we meet the norms. They give you percentages and they give you ratios. Those are so out of date. I think it still comes from the Stone Age. We need norms, and we need to have standards that we meet up with the rest of the world so that we have good drinking water quality. I'm very concerned that in Port Alfred, the government spent millions of rands to treat wastewater. But then the people in Port Alfred don't pull their change enough, so there was no stuff to treat, and it stands there as a white elephant, wasting millions of rands. So proper research was obviously not done. So I'm very concerned that we're not on top of our game, that we are going to be called a failed state because of our drinking water quality, and we ignore the people that drinks water but not out of taps. And we need to engage with the experts, especially in Cape Town. I'm not punting Cape Town because I live here, but we have the expertise, and the department and the municipalities are not using them. The city of Cape Town, in spite of me taking these professors to Dan Plato's, the mayor's office, and them giving him 500 pages of concerns about Zandvlei, nothing happened, because they have their own scientists in their departments that protect the municipalities, that cover up, and that wants to sabotage our country. They're not really interested in improving the drinking water quality if one looks at the state of affairs that we've seen in this report. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Mashiko. Thank you, Kharif.
Good morning, Chairperson and members of the committee. I've camera because I'm awkward. I'm on bed. With that in mind, Chair, I'm very happy or just satisfied in a way in the points that Honorable Khalif is raising, because there is yes.
Honorable Mashego, sorry for that. There's noise in the background.
Oh, okay.
Like your TV or radio, it's on.
Let me give that. Let me give that. Oh, what is it? Yeah. Sorry. I'm on bed, so I'm doing funny things. Yeah. Where's this? Okay. My apology.
Okay, Chair. Whilst you are on the platform,
My serious apology. I'm saying what Honorable Khalif has raised. Hey, and there is I'm not audible.
Yeah, you continue. You are now. Yes, you are now. Continue.
Okay. I'm saying I'm satisfied with the narrative that Honorable Khalif is raising, because there is a narrative in South Africa that if you want to see excellency in anything, go to Cape Town. And that narrative derives from its existence of the thinking that Cape Town is the city. The townships and areas are surrounding the Cape Town as the city of Cape Town is not only the town. Khayelitsha, Zwelitsha, not Zwelitsha, Khayelitsha, all other areas which are township of Cape Town are part and parcel of Cape Town, city of Cape Town. You have got two states in Cape Town. You go to Cape Town, in the white areas, you are in Europe. You go to Khayelitsha and all other areas, Kuletu and the likes, you are in the Bunduland. Their mayor is one. The MMCs who 10 serve that areas. And we get a narrative that it is excellent. If you want to see excellency, go to Cape Town. But I'm sure, thanks, Honorable Khalif, because that's the reality of the matter. If people are dying in Khayelitsha because of water that is not good, and Western Cape is seen to be the best blue drop that is saving the city of Cape Town, but people are dying out of that water, what is the blue drop about? And we have raised these issues many times, and I think we need to appreciate that Honorable Khalif, at some point, South Africa took a decision to stop the blue drop exercise. And that was very wrong on Minister Mkhunu and the team. And I know you have restarted, but it does not matter. If you take job, you take the assets and liabilities of it. So even in Bible, it is written that you will die for the sins of your parents as a child. You are going to get them. But the fact of the matter is that as Parliament of South Africa, at some point, not Parliament, even cities and provinces, we did not want to do green drop. And that time when it was stopped, personally, because I was a councillor, I thought it is okay, because look, what is the purpose of you having a green drop when your people have got no water in Eastern Cape? People have got no water in my hometown in Bushbuck Ridge, in Vembe, in all other areas. In the Eastern Cape, there is none. And they do get blue drop. Blue drop of what? Because there is no water. So we must appreciate the restarting of the blue drop exercise. But what I want to raise, Chairperson, through you, our cities our cities, if you look at the ratio, Cape Town is doing better, and I can't deny that point. They are doing better, not good. They are doing better. Go and look at who is doing this work in Cape Town. You will not find a black person there. And is it wrong? Not necessarily. It is because the experience and the knowledge lies in the old apartheid white people who had the capacity and the willingness to learn and get experience. And they are no longer there in all the township in South Africa. They are all logged in Cape Town. So they are doing work in one set of a country. The other countries are suffering when experience and knowledge lives in that area of Cape Town. South Africa must do the abnormals. We must distribute skills. In distributing of the skills, we must be in a position to ask Western Cape to borrow Swane, one of their engineers, one of the experts. They must borrow because they have an abundance of skills and knowledge in South Africa that is lacking, which has got none. When we came here, we found that there was something called War on Leaks Brigade, which was intervening sportingly on things. Of course, it was done illegally, as he said, but I don't think it was illegal. It was the president declared on it. Officials were supposed to budget for it to be official. But for whatever reason, they did not do it, and now they're blaming it on the president. Even here, something that is unusual must happen. We need to act in a manner that is not common in order for us to have our people, the country. In all the 9 provinces, only 1 province have got the capacity to do this work, this thing of green drop. It's a problem. But we have got skills in abundance in Cape Town. Let's use them around the country for them to help. Me and Leon went to Roy Val. What we saw there is something you can't appreciate. We went to Kian, you can't appreciate it. We went to Val, we can't appreciate it. When you ask them, we went to Msunduzi municipality last week. That municipality will never get to appreciate or even try to address the problem. They do not have capacity. They don't have skills. Even if they can have an engineer that can do it, they can't afford him salary-wise because of the budget of the city. They just can't afford. So meaning that the minister has got the responsibility to intervene in these cases, take over the responsibilities, reticulate, do any other thing, then give them to manage and do that. But in managing it, if they do not budget for the services of the infrastructure, it will relapse again. Meaning then that we need our district development model must give us space to intervene legally because we are a DDM that can do that. If we don't do that, Chairperson, I can send you a picture of Wipato. I can send it to you. And just see the sludge that is there. There will be never a green drop there. There will never be a blue drop or green drop there. Never. We went to Val. We will not get blue drop unless we act unusual. But we must then appreciate the minister for having brought back this process, because this process needs to deal with us having drinking water that is safe. That you need to give us an environment that is safe in the green drop. But if we are still going to act as if it is yesterday, we might as well forget. We have to act unusual, do something uncommon, and in order to appreciate that South Africa And Harif is saying, and you can hear him, he means it, but he says it's not, that we are driving towards a failed state in terms of water service delivery. And with you, Minister Mkunwe, Deputy Minister Makasi, and Deputy Minister Matlobo, stop us from going that route. Do something unusual. Honorable Matlobo is a water expert. He went to University of Ongoyo to learn about water. And maybe we need to even to think that Dr. Phillips is a doctor because he went to school. So we do have capacity, but this capacity is at national level when water is at local level. We must then, the DTM must allow us to use the national expertise at the local level using the DTM. But if we don't do that, South Africa will never benefit from this government that is doing so well. But we will remain in the documents, in the policy making, in the decision making, and in the national legislature. But people will be suffering there, not having water. But the process of the blue drop processes must be appreciated and be thanked. And I want to thank that Comrade Chair. And I'm saying Comrade Chair because I think I am in the ANC meeting. I'm in Honorable Chairperson. But we must act differently, and we must start today. Out of it, we might as well forget. I'm warned by the doctor not to be emotional and raise my voice. I know, but my apologies.
And you are defying the doctor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I sent you a message not to be angry, Mashiko. So you're also defying me.
I know, praise, just defying the doctor. And hey, you must never put us in trouble when I'm Mashiko.
Please, man, Mashiko, man. Yes. Yo, Honorable Koni, I saw your hand on the device. I thought you'll also, Honorable Mashiko, you'll also raise a matter of Tongat wastewater treatment, because you are on an oversight with that ad hoc committee, or you were on oversight with the ad hoc committee of Parliament, which oversee the disasters in KZN and Eastern Cape. So you came across that disaster also of the wastewater treatment in Tongat, which was disbanded by water. So I thought you'll also raise that because you were there, you saw it, you have witnessed it. But nevertheless, thanks. I think we'll get a report too in the portfolio committee next week. Honorable Connie, I see your hand.
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I would like to also wish Comrade Mashiko well, and to plead with him to take care, because we need him more than he needs us. Chair, I want to appreciate the presentation by the department, and also raise some issues of concern. One of the issues which I want to raise is about vandalism of our assets generally. For me, sometimes I just feel that there's sabotage somewhere, which I think the intelligence community needs to look at. That does not only happen within the water space, but you see with the ESCOM and their assets which are forever vandalized. And if we can be able to educate our communities, because if one aspect of electrical issues are vandalized, it means the whole community in that particular area gets affected. I'm sure all of us have got that experience, that for 3, 4, 5 days, you'll find a situation where the community does not have electricity. not because of the that it's load shedding, but it's because of thieving of electrical materials. So that goes also to our water situation where assets are not appreciated, they are forever vandalized. So we need to have a very, very serious education to mobilize communities around those stations, that they need to take care of those assets. But also we have a serious challenge, which we have spoken about for many times, how we've neglected our infrastructure. We must be honest about that, because honestly, there's so much neglect on infrastructure. Why can't we rather make sure that we invest in the infrastructure, especially when we have situations sometimes when we have to take the money back, we could not spend in municipalities. Some municipalities are not able to spend the money, but we have, how do we explain that to our electorates? So Chair, one other issue which it's a question I wanted to ask the department. Of course, we must also look at the positive of the efforts which the department is trying to put in place and to assess the municipalities. We can see the green drop, the blue drop, where the problem is. But what is important here is to make sure that implementation is done, because at the end of the day, the poorest are the ones who suffer the most. There is in the presentation, we're told that there are laboratories which have contracts with certain institutions. So we're told that they are in place throughout the province. Is it possible for the department to give us more information on that, especially in the provinces, so that we know who does our water, and who, in terms of gender, in terms of color, in terms of the previously disadvantaged, how are our people involved? Because I cannot imagine that we don't have any people with skills, and we should also not have a situation where we have like contracts which are forever. So those are the issues which I wanted to raise, Chair. Not forgetting skilling up more people, experts who will be able to assist and to make sure that these are not continuing. The other point which I wanted to raise is that, in an area somewhere, I've seen water bursting in a very profuse way, and then 5 cases from that point, another one. And to my mind, I was saying, but what's happening here? So I think we also need to go deeper and investigate as to exactly if this is just natural or if somebody's behind this. So those are my points. Thank you, Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Honorable Sloy. Honorable Soposing. Honorable Sloy, I see your hand.
Chairperson, good morning. I have got a connectivity problem, but I see that there's some improvement. I'm not sure if I'm audible well. Can you hear me, Chair?
Loud and clear, Madam. You can continue.
Thank you very much. Few questions, because I could not get all the presentations. Thank you for the presentation from the department, which I think there are a lot of efforts to really address the challenges on the green drop and the blue drop. And I think we need to appreciate that. But I think one of the weaknesses could be on us is that the reports in terms of challenges that are confronted the department and the interventions that they are making are coming very late. And then it makes us to wonder, since 2020, 2021, when we made some proposals on how best can we deal with these two issues, we're getting this report. I am not sure how often can we periodically get briefings on this matter. The second issue here is that as we listen to the presentation, one would think that maybe there is no effective participation in terms of our partners and even government department. Pollution and environmental issues, they've got their specific department, but that does not mean that we've got no role as water and sanitation. Which becomes then to say, how is the strength of others to ensure that we benefit and we succeed in our endeavors as a department? I think we need to get to that. The presenter presented an issue of credibility of monitoring in this whole process. I think that's a very strong tone, which perhaps I think out of the efforts, it needs to be strengthened to say, how is our monitoring as participants, as stakeholders, as government departments, in terms of ensuring that we get an effective program? The credibility has been raised. I think the recommendations, some of them are speaking on that. My last one is that, please, so that we don't get disillusioned on the process, how often can we get the progress report on this particular issue? Because the issue of pollution, we made it very clear in 2019. Asina shwele, all those that are polluting must be taken to books. We said so. We have not managed to get any progress on that. Ingaba, the company Swai, has it been taken to account on how we think in the process? Because the consequences should not only for officials, those that are undermining the democratic process and the transformation. So those are the few issues that I want to raise in. Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity. Bye.
Okay, thank you very much. I think your concerns are noted. I will now allow the DG and the team to respond, and the two DMs will close the discussions.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'd like to respond to a couple of the issues and then ask my colleagues to add. I'd like to start by responding to Honourable Basson regarding the Rooiwal wastewater treatment works in Tshwane. Over time, we've issued 4 directives to Tshwane regarding non-compliance of their wastewater treatment works. They've partially addressed some of our directives, but there hasn't been sufficient improvement yet in the effluent quality from the wastewater treatment works. And the problem in Tshwane is that poor quality effluent from the wastewater treatment works is in turn contaminating the water sources that are used to provide water to people in the Tshwane area. So it's a serious problem. Eventually, after non-compliance with the directives, we initiated civil action against the city of Tshwane, which it defended. Its defense was based on a view that we should be providing them with money as DWS to complete the remedial works and rehabilitation of the wastewater treatment works. The Human Rights Commission, honourable members, as you know, did get involved as well, and they gave a directive that we should take over the wastewater treatment works. There has been progress by the City of Tshwane, as I indicated on Rooiwal in particular. There is construction work underway. Their expected completion date is October 2022, but they've indicated that they don't have sufficient funds to complete it, and they've been asking us for funding for it. The challenge from our side as DWS is that in terms of the fiscal framework, the rules governing the grants, we're not allowed to use our grants to municipalities to fund metropolitan municipalities. They have to use the urban development grant, which is managed by the Department of Human Settlements for work on their wastewater treatment works. So what has happened recently, Honourable Basson, is that I've obtained in writing a letter from National Treasury confirming that they have engaged with the City of Tshwane and indicated to the City of Tshwane that there's sufficient money in the urban development grants that they get from human settlements for them to complete the work on the wastewater treatment works there, including the Rooiwal works. And we are now going to be, in terms of the ongoing civil case between us and Tshwane, we are going to try and make it an order of court that the City of Tshwane obeys or proceeds in accordance with the letter I've received from Treasury, and that it uses its urban settlements grant to complete the work on that wastewater treatment works. Turning to the issue raised by Honourable Mohlala, which is that over the years, has the implementation of our recommendations been effective? I think the honest, frank, short answer to that, Honourable Mohlala, is no, it hasn't in general been effective, because you can see from the results presented by Leonardo that the situation has deteriorated since the last time we issued the Green Drop report in 2013, which means that the recommendations in general can't have been effective. However, having said that, it must be noted that the Green Drop report is quite effective in terms of generating competition amongst municipalities, and it has, and many municipal officials do take it very seriously, and they try and get a better Green Drop score. So it's effective in that sense, but overall, the bigger picture is that the remedial actions have not been sufficiently effective, and that is why there's been a further deterioration. Which relates to the issue raised by Honourable Mashego, that we need to do something differently. And we agree with Honourable Mashego. We can't continue just doing the same thing and expecting a different result. We need to do something differently if we're going to reverse the deterioration, which is indicated in the Green Drop and the report and in the Blue Drop progress report. So, Honourable members, accepting that, we want, under the leadership of Minister Mkhunu, we are in the process of trying to strengthen our support and intervention to municipalities to do something differently or more radical, as Honourable Mashego said. And we've developed a water services improvement plan, which centres around, through our regional offices, us in supporting and intervening more systematically in municipalities when there's non-compliance with minimum norms and standards. And if you wish, honourable members, we can arrange to present that program that we putting in place to the committee, our Water Services Improvement Programme. And finally, before I hand over to colleagues, we agree fully with Honourable Seoposengwe's comment about vandalism. It's largely actually theft. We commonly say vandalism and theft, but the biggest problem is theft. And the water and sanitation sector, particularly at municipal level, is particularly affected by theft. Last week, we were in Machabeng or Welkom in the Free State, and the situation there is appalling in terms of the degree to which there's been theft of wastewater infrastructure. Almost all the pumps and mechanical equipment has been stolen from all the wastewater treatment works in that town. And there isn't even any security provided. There aren't even any security fences around the wastewater treatment works. So we agree, Honourable Member, it's a very serious problem affecting the sector. And again, something different needs to be done by government as a whole to address it, because it's clear that current measures aren't being effective in reducing this theft of public infrastructure. Leonardo?
Okay, thank you, DG. Honourable Chair, I will just answer the first question. I thought to answer. The first one would be on the question asked by Honourable Person on the public works. Yes, we are working with the Department of Public Works because those are the more smaller works. Majority of them are actually in the category of micro because of the size. And this is a situation, it would be that the department cannot go into the point of intervening with assistance in terms of finances because the Public Works Department is actually funding this themselves. So we are just basically at this point in time working on getting them to have the turnaround plan, which is effective in terms of the business itself. And we will continue work on that as the colleagues have already started with the 60-day turnaround with them as well. In terms of the question posed on the working with universities by Honourable Hendricks, the department has been working with universities right from the onset. When we commenced with the 2005-2007 failures that were across the country in terms of the diarrheal outbreaks that happened at that stage, we worked with the University of Johannesburg with their water quality section there to help us conceptualizing the whole process that eventually developed in us also getting our own programs in place. The University of Pretoria, as my colleague Annette have also explained, that they have had the water quality course that is quite formalized, and I myself subjected to it as well. And we are trying to actually revive that as well as it has been before. The Water Research Commission, they are working with various universities across the country with various research in the space of water quality. So that is that can also be confirmed. The Tshwane University of Technology is the only university in the country that has the formal qualification in form of a BTech for process control, which is called the Water Care Technology degree. And process controllers at wastewater treatment works and water treatment works across the country is actually coming to fulfill, to actually attain this course. So we are working with them also to ensure that their course remains relevant to the reality that we actually find with these various audits. And as recent as 3 weeks ago, we have been working on site with the University of Cape Town, something that emanated from the summit, the water summit that was held earlier this year, that they are working on a stream flow treatment of contaminated water using natural treatment. And they have a site outside Stellenbosch that I myself also visited. So we can give you the assurance, Honourable Member, that we are working with universities to actually ensure that what we are doing are aligned with the latest research. And then also in terms of the fact that they are also learning from us in terms of the realities that we pick up through our audits as well. Then in terms of the question asked by Honourable Seoposengwe with regards to the laboratories, these contracts with the laboratories are obviously between the water services institutions and the the municipalities and the laboratories, but we have attained information in terms of those laboratories, who they are. We don't have the details on the composition of the ownership of these laboratories at this point in time, but we can, the colleagues will package the information in terms of the laboratories that we know at this point in time due to the results that we came from the audits, and we will avail it to the Portfolio Committee's Secretariat to actually avail to the honorable members in that regard. And then the last question that I will answer would be in terms of the frequency. The frequency of the green drop. The reason why we've taken the decision to do it every 2 years in detail would be actually as a request as it came in 2011, when we did both the blue drop and the green drop at the same time. And we have seen it ourselves in terms of how the smaller municipalities have struggled to actually go through this rigorous process of auditing for both functions, because it's most of the time the same people in management as smaller municipalities who are responsible for both activities, and that's the reason why we've decided that it will be done every second year. But for the 1 year, we will do the green drop, which was the detailed one we've done this year, and we reported to the Portfolio Committee. We are now in the process of doing the audits for the blue drop in detail, and we will report that by the end of March. The report will be ready, and we will be ready to then produce a full briefing to the Portfolio Committee in terms of the blue drop. And the no drop is going to be subjected to the same frequency and will also be ready by the end of March. We will also provide then a briefing on the water conservation and demand management, water losses and so forth. In terms of that component will also then be available next year. But for every year where we don't do a detailed audit, we will be providing a progress report in terms of the major or the critical risks, as we've done this time round with the blue drop. So that would be the intention of the going forward from the department as far as the briefings are concerned. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thanks, Leonardo. And DPW?
I have started with that, DG. I think that I've covered
Okay,
it.
thank you. Okay, thank you. Annette, would you like to come in on the Volga River?
Thanks, DG. Honourable Member Wasun, just to give some brief feedback on the Volga River, we've had our representation meeting in response to the directive that was issued to the mine. We also had the Mpumalanga Parks Authority as part of the representation meeting. The mine was requested to do some further stakeholder engagement, specifically around the cleanup and the rehab and the remediation around Loskop Dam. Those engagements has been done, and the rehab report has been updated accordingly and was submitted, I believe, yesterday to the department. We will then issue our response letters for the remediation to commence. To confirm, the shaft is currently, the levels are being adequately maintained, and there's currently no discharge from the shaft, and the rehab will commence as soon as we issue that response letter. Thanks. Thanks, DG.
Thanks, Annette. And then can either you or Leonardo answer Honourable Hendricks's question about whether we're also monitoring the quality of rivers and streams?
DG, I will just come in there quickly as to, sorry, I marked it, but I didn't answer it. Apologies for that. In terms of the streams, yes, we do have a national monitoring program on 3 elements: the national monitoring program on microbial, the other one would be on chemical, and the other one would be on the physical quality of the major rivers and streams as it goes around the country. However, keeping in mind that even though we are monitoring these, we have taken a key principle decision, and the standard is that all people should receive water that would be of safe quality, which is SANS 241. Unfortunately, a river will never be able to be treated to the level where it can comply with the national standard, which is South African National Standard 241 for drinking water quality. But what we have to do and to aspire towards, and what the department is aspiring to, is to actually ensure that everybody have access to an acceptable water service, because getting a water from a stream is not an acceptable service. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. That completes our answers, Chairperson.
DJ, I think there was a question on Zansvlei and Wipatung which was not responded to. Do you want to take a bite?
On Boipatong, I can talk about our VAL intervention and give a brief update on that. I'm not sure if that would answer the question.
Oh, okay, just briefly.
Okay, we do have Rand Water as our implementing agent for the VAL intervention. The minister has been and the deputy minister have been monitoring it closely. I'm sure the deputy minister might say more. Deputy Minister Maprobo about it. But in a nutshell, we are working closely with Rand Water. There are various parts of the work. One part of the work is to do immediate work on the ground to address sewage spillages resulting from pipe leakages and blockages and that kind of thing. And we've had contractors on the ground, and there are more contractors on the ground now addressing that. Then there are other contractors to do more substantial work to address mechanical and electrical problems at wastewater treatment works. And at the same time, we're busy with design work. Rand Water is busy with design work for substantial upgrading of some of the wastewater treatment works in the area. So it's a multi-billion rand project, which is going to be done over a number of years. But while the big projects are being planned, the work is underway to address the immediate problem of sewage spillages in the area. Thanks, Chair.
Mrs. Grace, unmute yourself, please.
Oh, thanks. I thought members, sorry for that, dear Mahlobo. I thought you added to members of Parliament. If your question is not responded to, you'll give me an indication. But now I'm giving over to DM Magazi and DM Mahlobo, just to wrap up.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zeke. Thank you very much to honorable members. Let me indicate, members, that all the issues that you have really highlighted are the issues that we adhere to the ministry's heart. And very, very importantly, I need to indicate that these are some of the things that we will really make sure that you get updated on frequently. So, and I don't want to really procrastinate. Let me give my colleague Dear Mahlobo to be able to wrap up the whole issue. And I am of the opinion and of the belief that all the issues that have been raised by honorable members are very crucial. But I also need to indicate that this is work that you need to take also to your constituency office, remind the communities of the crucial issues of making sure that pollution is one of the things that actually brings about the challenges of climate change. And we need to work together in making sure that we deal with the challenges of the climate change, which is with us here. And I believe that when we're doing that, we will be able to deal with some of the ecological challenges that we're having. But of importance, one honorable member spoke about the issue of research and development. And these are some of the things that the department is upbeat about. One would want to say that we work with a lot of universities. We work with our Water Research Commission and other institutions that are able to assist in making sure that whatever we're doing, we do within informed and a scientific way of doing things. But I would urge that some of these documents that we present to yourself, it will be important that we take to our communities, especially your communities such as where you find the Velge River, the Val River, Harties, and we start to educate them about the importance of taking care of the natural resources and not polluting our natural resource. But Chairperson, thank you so much. Let me give to Honorable Mahlobo to do the closing remarks. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, Mama Gazi. Thanks to the chair and the team. Just to welcome the inputs that have been made by members of the portfolio committee. Just to indicate that we welcome your contribution. In the main, we've kept our promise as a department, in a sense that we committed to revive the blue drop and the green drop. And we said this is going to happen by this year. And this year we indeed delivered on these reports that the DG, Manas, and the team have presented. And we're very pleased that even if this is a very biggest shift, if you recall that we're in a situation where this work had not been done for so many years. If you recall, the last one that was last issued was 2013. You pushed us. And when you pushed us, we did deliver as you demanded that we should be able to deliver on that. And the team, in the shortest possible time, honorable members, they were able to do more than 800 of the wastewater system. This is what we call them a consultative audit. And remember, they were not meant only to detect non-compliance and dysfunctionality, Chair, but these results will start to guide those responsible towards improving their operational philosophies. If they can improve operational philosophy in terms of water management, in terms of the systems management and asset management, they will improve the effluent quality, Chair. We as the department, we are also confirming that in as much as the green drop results that you see, they are very far away from what we want, comrades. We must admit we are not at a space where we want in terms of wastewater management. But as the department, we are very confident that improvement is going to be very imminent, because those that actually have got to these results, they look well in terms of their reputation. Even investors, even citizens, they start to have confidence that they are doing something. But as we're admitting, Chair, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done, because if you look at the issues of the management, there is not a single municipality in the country, Chair, that is not struggling about its own wastewater management system, not a single one. Even those that might have done well, we have not done the assessment of all their wastewater treatment plants. There was just a sample that was taken. There is not a single municipality in South Africa that doesn't actually have effluent that is actually spilling. Whether it's the city of Cape Town, whether it's Tshwane, whether it's eThekwini and others, they are all struggling. And we are actually dealing with that particular issue. Our presentation here today, Chair, must be able to trigger a passion, like a number of members have demonstrated, but a commitment in all of us to transform our thinking. We need also to agree with you that we must be able to merge scientific and engineering skills to create the kind of a capability, Chair, so that we can be able to protect the precious resource that we have. Therefore, We also noted the report that was presented, more than 1,000 water supply systems, like DG has spoken, that have achieved the Blue Drop certification results in terms of drinking water, Chair. But we must be able to say, municipality and water services institutions, Chairperson, we are actually encouraging them to be prepared for these audits because it's the right thing to do. And as a department, we will continue with this audit. And the information, like all of us as South Africans, we are the ones who did this assessment. That's why you can find the information on our own website, Chairperson. But at the very same time, Chair, we are very pleased that we are proceeding now with the polluter pays principle. We have actually looked at 3 catchments. In those 3 catchments, we are piloting the waste discharge charge system where we are saying there must be a 0 charge to ensure that all systems are working before it is implemented in the next financial year. The task team that you remember we launched as early as around 2019, 2020, the anti-pollution task team, they've been working very hard to build institutions, Chairperson, to build the monitoring mechanism in terms of the equipment, our hydrological monitoring points, but also to build the capacity within the department, but also working with other organizations like the Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. We are pleased, Chairperson, to indicate now that in the absence of a clear national policy framework around mine water, Cabinet has just recently approved a mine water policy that we will be able to bring those polluters in the mining sector, whether it's historic mines, whether it's the current operation or future operations, so that the liability must not be borne by our future generation because we will not afford to pollute every single drop. And that liability cannot be passed to our children. And I'm very pleased that we are not only having this anti-pollution task team. Honorable Hendricks, we once launched in Cape Town with SALCA, a water scientific group by local government. I happen to adopt that particular group myself too as a scientist. They are doing a lot of work working with the department, SALCA and municipalities and the universities. I know the University of Western Cape, other universities, they're all involved and they are doing a very good job. Therefore, the question of research led by Water Research Commission, CSIR and others who are doing well in that particular issue, including the kind of scientists that we actually get them to go through our own academy so that capacity is there. But I do agree we need to do a lot so that we can actually do partnership. Even issues of determining new pollutants and contaminants. I know, for an example, that we're able to find the traces of the coronavirus type 2 that was found in the water. It's because of the scientific capabilities we have that we're doing with the Research Commission. But with University of Pretoria, we're also looking at new pollutants like your microplastics and others. And we do agree that the science standards must be actually improved, not only for the issues of environment, but for the issues of the economy. Because if our water system is polluted, our produce, whether it's meat, whether it's everything, it will not meet the World Health Standard that we need to deal with. We also have produced a lot of environmental management inspectors so that we can do enforcement. We are producing more and more of these ones, but we will also be able to tap from the green scorpions that are actually available to deal with those particular issues, including opening up of cases. The last point, multidisciplinary regulatory audits are also being conducted not only on municipalities, even in other sectors like your water use associations, which are normally mostly agricultural and industrial. And we also have done even a blitz to go around, you know, those people who are actually stealing water, doing illegal dams, not only pollution, issues of non-compliance, opening of cases, and we can still do more with the criminal justice system to prepare the magistrate and the prosecutors so that these matters are attended to. Matters around vandalism, the matters around water leaks, the team have dealt with those ones. But our message, we've turned the corner. We should be able to proceed with this program, strengthen our regulatory capacity, enforcement and compliance as a department, because we owe it not only to ourselves to ensure that the environment we live in is not harmful. We owe it to ourselves to ensure that nobody in South Africa can die because of waterborne diseases, because we will have not valued water, but we will not actually have a good management of our water systems. But lastly, the impact on the economy. If our water is not fit for use, there is going to be a lot of implication around the cost of treatment, the issues of technology that must be brought in, but there will also be issues of trade that will be lost, including what we'll be able to do next year, the non-drop in other issues, the non-revenue water must be attended, because every drop that is being wasted, Chair, someone in South Africa is thirsty and is looking for that water. Once again, thanks for the entire support that you do. With you side by side, we should be able to ensure that we are proud to drink our water in any stream or any tap, but we will also be proud that our ecosystem, in terms of our dams and rivers and wetlands, they're in a good position for the future generations, Chair.
Thank you very much, dear Mahlobo and dear Magazi. On that note, I think let me thank the Department of Water and Sanitation, the DG and the team, and all the guests that are present here. And I'm not going to waste more time, honorable members. At 2 o'clock, we do have a sitting. It's a 3-line whip. All of us requested to connect. And I think on that note, Honorable Mashiko, the Portfolio Committee wishes you a speedy recovery. My brother, don't take it hard. The team is here. Can I officially declare this meeting officially closed? And thank you very much for your attendance.
Long live the chair.
We were with the presidency at Scopa.
Thank you, Chairperson. Long live. Malibongwe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Betty.